you find adventure at the click of a button, or from the turn of a page, or the casting of a die. Join your hosts, Coniff and Shiloh, on an unforgettable journey. Questing the Multiverse.
I am going through my phone, Shiloh, trying to locate the phone specifically. I'm going through my DMs with our dear friend Tempest Fox, trying to find the video that spawned this sort of icebreaker question that I want to pose to you. And apparently Tempest and I talk way too much because I can't find it. I think I may have just found it, but this is back in like March. Was that how long ago this was? Anyway, it was this video called "You Can't Play Everything." And the premise was that let's say you get into a game, right? And we'll use single player games specifically because that's kind of where his point was dwelling on. And he used Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 a lot. But you get into this game and you play it for a while. Maybe you get close to beating it, maybe you don't, and you just kind of fizzle out at some point in the game. Then a year or two goes by and the game gets a sequel, and the sequel is just hyped up and, bigger than the first game even. And you're like, well, I better go play that first game then in order to fully experience the second one that's coming out. And so you go and you play that first game again, you get into it. I mean, it's like, knocking the rust off and dusting off the cobwebs, and you push through and you beat it just in time for the second game. But then you get into the second game and you're already burnt out because the first game is just, it just pushed you, you pushed yourself too hard, you fizzle out then. And there's this cycle, right? And so he talks about this in the video, and it's a really, really good video. I'll link in Discord. But it got me thinking about, I can't play everything. I mean, think about all the games that released last year being a huge year for gaming that we just didn't get to play. Like Dave the Diver was an indie game that I didn't get to play. Dredge, an indie game I didn't get to play. That Atlas Fallen was a game that looked interesting. I think our friend Stark played it, and it was kind of like meh, and so we didn't play it, and there's any number of games that came out that you or I just didn't get a chance to play. Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, any number of Nintendo games that are certifiable like greatest hits of their generation. I about said generation like I'm some fancy, podcast host. I'm not. So this whole concept, right, of you can't play everything. So I wanted to kind of think about this from a different angle. And so, listener, the question I'm going to pose to you and Shiloh in this case is, what are some games that you just couldn't get into, whether it be like a genre, maybe particularly is kind of where this was going, but a game or games that genres you just couldn't get into, though you tried. And it's not because you hate the genre, like maybe you just don't like playing FIFA, sports games. And I can kind of get with that, which you like playing Madden. So that's not a good example, but like FIFA or whatever. Games that you just can't, you've tried, you want to like, but it's just a style of game that you can't get into. What do you think?
Initially my knee-jerk reaction would be game or possible genres that I don't even really particularly care about. So we'll throw that out the window. I don't play racing games. I just no.
That should have been my pick for you.
So if we're talking about a game that maybe I would even try to breach, or
yes,
I guess the biggest one currently out is probably Battle Royale. I just can't get into it. Like and I've tried a little bit of the Battle Royale mode in Fallout 76.
Which is no longer there. It's nuked.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. You played Spellbreak with us, didn't you?
I did.
Okay.
And I played, I tried the new WoW thing, the Plunder Storm.
Okay.
A couple of times. And I think I played a couple of matches in Fallout. I'm sorry, Fallout. Fortnite. And I just can't do it. It just doesn't. The idea is interesting, and I always go in going, oh yeah, this would be great. And then I think about something of a genre, because it's more of a mode or a game mode rather than a genre, I would suppose. Like, you can pretty much put that in different things like they did with Plunderstorm, and naturally my inclination would go, oh, we got a battle royale and a game that actually, or even an MMO that I like, and I just fell flat for me. I guess that would be my initial
reaction.
Yeah, I guess so. I can't, because racing games I don't care for. Competitive co-op online shooters I just don't care for. Like COD and
Battlefield.
That sort of thing. I just don't care. So that's not really fair for me to say that I went into Call of Duty and was really gung-ho about getting my rank up, and that would just seem like a huge lie. So but yeah, I guess Battle Royale mode, just I go in with the inclination thinking I'm gonna really like this, or this will be fun, and I just leave going, no, not for me. And it's probably a lot of different things. I just can't get into it. I'm probably not good enough to be good enough to get into it. So there's multiple elements of different reasons why I just fall out and just like, never mind.
Okay. I have one in particular, but then kind of a minor second one. And the main thing is MOBA games. I missed out on League of Legends when it first came out, and it was all the rage. Everyone was playing it. And it wasn't the first MOBA. I know Dota came before it. I'm sure someone out there that like Tempest, he knows all about this type of genre. I did play Heroes of the Storm, which was Blizzard's MOBA, and then Heroes of Newerth, which was, we called it Han in college. I think that was a MOBA. So I've dabbled a time or two. I've never played, I played one of the Dotas, don't remember which. But I never played League of Legends. And someday I think I will play League of Legends, and not because I want to fix myself or maybe go down that rabbit hole, as the longtime League players would probably say, but because I love the world of Arcane and Runeterra so much, Arcane being the TV show that they made for it. But MOBAs, the style of it, I'm just not like a competitive gamer outside of two specific game types, which is rhythm-based games, like more recently Fortnite Festival, but like Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and that type of stuff, or just first-person shooters. I'm not necessarily good at first-person shooters, but that is like a competition mindset, like game mode, that I don't mind playing. Like I've played many hours of Call of Duty, Halo multiplayer, Battlefield, all the big ones that are FPS where it's sort of an arena based shooter. I like that. But MOBAs being a PvP team based tactical, game mode where, you're fighting in lanes, you've got minions. I don't know, my brain just doesn't comprehend it, and I have tried to like it, even for the sake of, like Blizzard. It was Heroes of the Storm, all their characters, from Overwatch, some from Diablo, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, were all mashed together in this MOBA. I just couldn't do it. I don't know. And to this day, like I haven't played a MOBA game in, I don't know, like, well, Guild Wars 2, there's that one PvP. Isn't it like a PvP game mode that's kind of MOBA based, where you send your NPCs? It's the PvP arena, but like you have those NPCs that go and attack the door. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? That's like the most MOBA thing I've played in the last 10 years. So
not very MOBA,
yeah. And I don't know, like, have you ever played a MOBA game? Are you? Yeah.
No, but this question to me is not very fair, because there are lots of things that I just I'm like, I don't know. I won't either dip my toes in because I know I'm not going to like it, or I dip my toes in because it's a little too intimidating, like MOBAs.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, no. And I know that the community and a lot of those MOBAs are not necessarily very welcoming. So
yeah,
because it's a PvP based thing. So why should they be? It's just, so I'm like, yeah, okay. No, I'm good. I'll stick to my Care Bear MMOs and my PvE version or game modes of games that even have PvP in them.
Yeah.
So like, I don't.
Yeah, but the other one was RTSs for all of the same reasons. I played a bunch of StarCraft, and then there was in college played Command and Conquer Yuri's Revenge, which was like a one-off version of that game, or I think it was like a mod that someone made that turned into like a official game. No idea. But I did like those, and I like them, but they're always games where I'm like I want to like it. I want to play it. I want to be that guy that, can just get down with like an RTS game. But at the end of the day, it's just like, it's too much competition and thinking for me in some cases. So
yeah, it's too much micromanagement for me.
Yeah.
It just makes my brain hurt and like, no.
But I like them. Like I never played Halo Wars, even though I was a huge fan of Halo. Yeah, I did like StarCraft 2 a little bit, and that Yuri's Revenge. But Yuri's Revenge, the Command and Conquer game, that was more because some girl I was interested at the time was also playing that, and so naturally I was there, needed to play it. So anyway, just icebreaker. I thought about this, like I can't play everything. Maybe there are games, like genres, that I just need to look at and be like, you know what, it's just not for me. I need to stop trying to force myself to play whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right, now that we have broken the ice, let's move on to something that was not on our radars at all. And I'm still skeptical because, when they release the same thing over and over and over again for years, not the same thing, but the same style of expansion, it doesn't breed good faith within me. But apparently Bungie might be turning Destiny 2, the final shape, around, and it might be going out with a huge bang. Do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. So this did come out of left field. I know that. Well, you didn't play Lightfall.
No.
Which is probably within your best interest.
Which I wasn't opposed to it, but just the to get this out of the way, like the entry for me to get everything on PC is just like $100 to $200 for all of it, and that's like, you can't. I don't know. I have my distaste for that, just because it's like, that's not if someone's wanting to jump into Destiny 2 for the first time, are they really going to have to drop that much money to get all the content that's in the game? It doesn't make sense to me. But
Well, yeah, I understand. I also understand from there. I mean, Final Fantasy does the same thing.
Yes, but you could pay $23 when it was on sale for everything that exists in the game.
Yeah, there's that. And I just wish that, and maybe they will when, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know how they're going to work this, but
Yeah.
yeah, if they did it like most MMOs, generally if you buy the new expansion and you can either buy the upgrade for $39. I know ESO used to do it like this. And I think it's the same with Final Fantasy. If you own something previous, you can pay $39 for whatever, for the expansion the base version of the expansion for that much. But it includes pretty much everything. Retrograding, includes everything previous to that. So I don't know if they're planning to do that with the game. Honestly, I think that they've kind of scrapped the whole let's try to get some new players vibe, and I think it's very relevant in the new Into the Light Final Shape developer gameplay trailer, because if you were to look at that as a new player that had no idea what Destiny 2 had to offer and just looked at that and going, what in the world's going on? And because that's basically because current or previous fairly hardcore Destiny 2 players can look at that and go, what in the hell is going on? Because it's bizarre. Yeah. And it got a lot of people excited. So I really do think that they've turned this around, the ship around, and I think the numbers indicate that. I know that their player count had gone to an all-time low. The Final Shape pre-orders were way down, like 25% of what the Lightfall pre-orders were, the Lightfall pre-orders were capitalizing on the previous success of the Witch Queen, which was a really good expansion. Probably not up there with Forsaken, but probably the second best one they've had. Yeah. And so Lightfall kind of it just seemed slapped together. The story wasn't great for the campaign. There weren't a lot of PvP maps, not that I care, but there weren't a lot of Crucible updates or any of that kind of stuff. So, and the Final Shape had been delayed, and Bungie has been really kind of hard pressed. They've made some questionable decisions. They've had a lot of layoffs. Sony laid off a bunch of Bungie employees, and so they've been struck with the whip, I guess you could say is the best term for that. But this new developer trailer had a lot of people excited, including myself and Swine and Doctor, and who were basically a third, or well, half of the of our fire team. Destiny 2 fire team, raid team. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? This looks pretty good. And if you haven't seen it and you have played or interested, I would definitely recommend checking it out at least. They showed, they've been showing these little bits like every week, I think, up to a certain point. They basically focused on the Into the Light, which is a new, it's a new game mode / they've introduced a bunch of old weapons, the Recluse being one, Mountaintop, Hammerhead, a lot of old Black Armory guns, as well as some kind of old pinnacle rewards for PvP and Luna's Howl, and there's a bunch of other ones. But so they've introduced these guns as kind of a new kind of thing that they're doing, because they've had to extend this season for, I guess, about as long as one of the seasons that just lasted forever. That was right before the Witch Queen, or maybe it was right before the Lightfall.
It was before Lightfall, I think.
6 months or something. Yeah. Season of the Witch, I think maybe. I don't remember. Now we're in the season of the Wish with an S. So this season's gone on for a while. And this one's pretty good. It's got Riven involved and all sorts of crazy stuff with Mara Sullivan and the Witness and stuff. But anyway, but this onslaught mode, it's basically a horde mode in Destiny 2. You kind of get little tripwires and can operate turrets and stuff, and it's just wave after wave after wave, and you kind of beat a wave and you move on to the next wave, and you can kind of bail out whenever your fire team wants to, or you can find a matchmaking thing through the matchmaking system in the game. And there's a legendary mode that I haven't tried yet, but it's supposed to be pretty good, which is probably where I should be, because this is the base version of Onslaught is not necessarily all that challenging. It's a lot of mobs and stuff, but if you just have bad clear stuff and, Buzz rocking Osteostriga and Necrotic Grips and stuff like that just sent strand wires and poison, everything all out into the battlefield. It was just completely decimating stuff, but it is a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of fun getting back in. I'm one of those people. I just watched the video, and for those interested, it's a new subclass, which a lot of people were speculating and had been speculating on for a long time. Like, what are they going to introduce? Is it going to be a Siva based, like Outbreak Perfected, that sort of thing, like the Warmind that kind of subclass? But no, they've really outdone themselves, and this subclass is basically designed for, and I don't know how anyone is ever going to go back to a regular subclass after playing this, but it's a prismatic, they're calling it prismatic subclass, and you're going to be able to pull elements from all the other subclasses into one build. And so you have 2 meters, a light meter and a dark meter, and once they're both filled, you have your prismatic. It's almost like a super, so all of your other stuff changes and you become enlightened or something like that, and you have this whole other like map of new things that you can do. So it's a lot. Like it sends your head reeling, like, oh, yeah. I can put a as a warlock, I can put a stasis turret on a solar build and have well and like all this other crazy things that you can do. For a hunter, you could have the stasis super with your solar shurikens and your gun, your little, what's the gunshot thing where you throw the the gunpowder explosion thing where you throw the thing and you fire it and it just blows up everything. Oh, stuff like that. Yeah. Like there's all, you can have like Thunder Crash as a Titan and just all sorts of nutty stuff. But it's been a lot. Of course, this is going to be for the final shape, and I've said for a long time, like I really wanted to get back into Destiny before the final shape and see out this however long it's been. I don't think I bought it at launch, but I didn't really start playing until we all started really. Actually, I started playing with our old friend Timmy, yeah. And that kind of got me into the game really. So it's been a while. It's been at least 7 years, I feel like. So it'll be interesting to see. I know that player count's way up. I'm sure that the pre-orders, I actually pre-ordered it. It's like I think they got me on this one. So and that's, I wasn't going to. I was just going to wait and see what happened, and I was very skeptical about the final shape, really, to be honest. So, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of other people were in the same boat as very, I mean, the numbers don't lie. It's it's just Lightfall was not that great, and it had some things going for it, but just in the end, it just wasn't that great. So, but I've had a lot of fun. I've been playing with Swine a good bit, and then Doctor ran us through one of the, I guess not this season's dungeon, but last season. I don't know. It was very cool. It was kind of more of a fantasy-esque. Like you're in at one point we were in cells, like in a dungeon, and we had to kind of shoot ourselves out. It's very, it's on this beautiful landscape. I'm not sure exactly where it is. It might be on Earth. I don't know, but they're snow-capped mountains, and you're kind of going up this thing. It's called the, oh crap, I can't remember. The Warlord's Ruin or something like that.
It sounds like the wolves, the Iron Wolves.
What was that? Yeah.
Oh man, it's been so long since I've had to recall Destiny knowledge.
Yeah, where you get the shotgun.
Well, it's from Destiny 1. I keep wanting to say Warlords of Draenor.
Fellbringer area. Right. Fellwinter.
Fellwinter, yes. Yeah, I don't remember what that.
And they brought back 0 Hour and Whisper of the Worm.
That's all you had to say.
So they're
the actual mission for 0 Hour is back.
Yeah, I think the doctor said the route is different. And that they have craftable worm, kind of like they did with Hawkmoon. So they're having different versions of Outbreak and Whisper of the Worm that you can get with different drops and stuff.
I liked the Whisper mission too. That was a good one. Mm-hmm. Both of those, Whisper and 0 Hour, were some of my favorite content in the game. 0 Hour because it's this giant maze-like puzzle with a fight at the end, and then Whisper the Worm because of the maze-like platforming. It was just a ton of fun. So I did end up getting both those guns and completing that mission, though I never got the catalyst for Outbreak the original way.
Yeah, I don't know how I guess you get it from, and I still haven't gotten either one of them.
I just know the original way you had to do.
You had to do it on Legendary or something.
Yeah,
that just didn't sound like a fun time for me. Same thing with crap. Yeah, this is how long it's been, folks, since I've played a whole ton of Destiny 2s. I'm trying to think of old guns that...
Yeah.
The shotgun with the mission... I'm sorry, not shotgun, the scout rifle, the Dead Man's Tale, that's what it is.
Oh.
We had to go in and do the Presage, I think, or something like that. You do it on Legendary for that gun. So for the catalyst. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Just kind of, and if you want to get back into it, when you go into the Hall of Champions, which is Shaxx's new little area, it's kind of cool. It's just a social hub for the new Onslaught thing. And for the new weapons, the 12 Brave Arsenal weapons is what they're calling it. And they're releasing a couple new ones each week leading up to the final shape. But right now, you can get Recluse,
well, you said Mountaintop.
Yeah, the Mountaintop's not in yet. There's Elsie's gun, or Elsie's rifle, which is, I guess, an old callback to Destiny 1. I think it was a blue drop originally. But it's basically a legendary version of the pulse rifle that she carries, which they made an exotic for, No Time to Explain, which is a tongue-in-cheek joke about, I guess, her last line before she left Destiny 1. I'd explain, but there's no time to explain.
Interesting.
But yeah, there's lots of different guns to choose from. And I haven't done a whole lot of the Onslaught other than what Swine and Doctor and I did. I've been trying to catch up on the season and stuff, and just kind of, trying to figure out where I am and, all that sort of thing. But it's been fun to get back into that game. It's not necessarily anything game changing right now, but I think once they release that new subclass, it's almost like all bets are off on what's
Sounds
going
like
to
it
happen.
should be Destiny 3. And I know that they aren't doing Destiny 3, but like that type of game-changing mechanic
Yeah, it does
almost
seem like
lends itself
they've just
to a new game.
they've just kind of said, you guys have fun, and they've like, we're out. And I know a lot of people are speculating that maybe this is kind of the end of the road, like this is the final shape, as it were. And that they're working on Destiny 3, and that they're gonna have, because this really feels like a reset. Like it's they've just gone, all right, have fun, here's all your toys, and you know, we're moving on to something else, because I don't know how you recover. Like, after you have all of this stuff, are you going to really want to go back to a solar, void, or arc subclass? I guess it remains to be seen and what happens and what nerfs come and what PvP is going to end up doing to all this, because of how broken it might be, because it took them forever to recover from stasis when it first launched, in PvP at least.
If you ask me, and I haven't played Destiny 2 in over a year or 2 years. I really don't remember when the last time, whenever Witch Queen was out. Once this launches and everything, it will have, 3 light subclasses, 2 darkness subclasses, and then this mix and match class of some sort. So it almost would make sense for them to say, okay, end of Destiny 2. And then they start working on the next step for Destiny. And maybe that is the pyramids are destroyed, whatever happens in the final shape. But then their next game is set sometime way in the future where darkness and light are coexisting in some capacity. And you build your guardian more like an RPG where you pick one of those, or you create your character, but then it's like trees that you can go down, or you can even swap between. But like, I know it's kind of that in a way now, but getting back to like those skill trees that they had, or maybe you build your guardian and you can dip into all these different classes a little bit, and just kind of go down the route of this mix and match situation that they seem to be now leaning towards. And then whatever the threat might be, it's an opportunity for like the light and the darkness to come together, and as guardians you take it out or whatever. But I have no idea. I'm out of touch with it ultimately. Like I said, I wouldn't mind getting back to it, but the amount of money that you'd have to drop to, and I have a lot of the stuff on Xbox, but it's not transferable to the PC version, even though the account is, and there's cross play. I don't know. I think that's still a little silly, but I get their reasoning for not making those purchases work for both. But
yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. And it's July or something. June is when the final shape's coming out.
Yeah, I believe it's June. I think I'm going to be gone.
On vacation when that happens.
Yeah, when it releases, I think. I don't remember. But yeah, it's gonna be. It's around that time. I think late June.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Gonna be exciting. I'll definitely keep you posted. I suppose. And,
I'll look for sales and stuff, but
yeah,
it's a lot to jump at, especially when they remove stuff, and they have in the past. Although they're never doing that again. Apparently, they're no longer sunsetting content. They've made that sort of promise, I guess. Bungie has, but
yeah.
Okay, well, moving on to another thing out of left field. Maybe not so much out of left field as the last video game to TV show adaptation that... It's not adaptation, it's adaptation. Coniff, get with the times. The last video game to TV adaptation that we ever expected to be really, really good was something that was out of Bethesda. No offense, but they're not known for their just, insane quality right out of the gate. And yet the Fallout TV show launches and is met with very high praise. Last I checked a day or two ago, it was a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is fantastic. I haven't heard a single negative thing about it in all the spaces that we frequent. It is, for all intents and purposes, one of the best video game adaptations in TV or movies. Fallout TV show, Shiloh, when you sat down to watch episode 1 and you're however many minutes or whatever into episode 1, what was your thought? I know you've played Fallout 76 a ton. I think you played Fallout 4 once upon a time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with 1, 2, and then 3 eventually. Yep. I played a little bit of 4, but most of the most recent Fallout stuff has been 76. The real thing that stood out was how true to form and how many different nods there were. And and this is both, to your point, surprising, but also not surprising considering Bethesda. The one thing that Bethesda does very, very well is kind of brand their IPs very well.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, but it's not heavy-handed. Like if you were to watch this show and you never ever played a Fallout game, but you were just interested in this quirky little post-apocalyptic spin on this TV show.
Yeah,
you would go, oh, look at that! It's that looks like big fancy robot armor. Which of course we know is power armor.
What power armor is? Yep.
But the things like the power armor workstation, the posters, the bobbleheads. All the different food, the Blamco mac and cheese and cram and all the different little food products that, get thrown at in your way. Even down to the character models, like the lady, the blonde haired lady, that's part of the Vault. Vault 33. Vault 33, yeah.
Yeah, she's pregnant in episode 1. I don't know what happens after episode 2, so.
Yeah, but her hairstyle is like right out of a character creator. It's just, and even the actress, the main lady, Ella Purnell, I think is her name. Yeah, she's very pretty, but she's got these huge eyes. And there's very striking, and it feels like she just came out of a character, Bethesda character model. It just very, very, it's just good. It really is. And the storytelling is good. It feels like, man, I wish that this was a Fallout game, because it's just very,
I know. It's like the setting too.
Exciting. Yeah, the setting in California. I don't know if we've seen that in a Fallout game yet. So
no, well, maybe 1 or 2. I don't remember. I think they're set on the West Coast, but I don't remember which. And obviously, so New Vegas is set in Vegas area, Nevada. The thing that really stood out to me is exactly what you said, where it's all the details are just spot on with the game. Like you're saying, like that character looks like straight out of a character creator. When and we'll try to do the, no spoilers, because this is brand new show. But when a character in the show needed to use a stim pack for something, it did exactly what it does in the game, which basically made that character immediately like, all right, ready to go. Yeah. And that's it's exactly what the game's like. And then again, even as early in the show as the beginning, when it's right before the bombs drop, like you see the Mr. Handy robot, the TVs, every little set piece, the cars, they're all just spot on with what the video game is. And now I will say this, spot on to Bethesda's iteration of Fallout, because I know that they definitely added their own flavor once they bought the IP and, put out Fallout 3 compared to 1 and 2. But for the most part, the aesthetic, the vibe, like Bethesda's just expanded upon that. And this show is just like the power armor, like the gun that the knight carries in episode 2 is just one. It's just straight out of the video game. Like even little things, again, I'm trying to dance around spoilers, but in episode 2 there's a shootout with one of the main characters, and the weapon that character is using effectively fires these like explosive rounds that blow things up. And that, I don't know if that was intentional. I'm guessing it was, but like one of the biggest weapons in all of Fallout, not biggest, but like one of the most sought after weapons, certainly in Fallout 76, but then also in Fallout 4 was explosive versions of random guns. So like in Fallout 76, I have a explosive, gosh, now I can't think of the name. It's not the handmade. It's the whatever. It's the main gun. It's a bloodied explosive something, and that's my fixer, I think is what it's called. So a bloodied explosive fixer, and the bullets explode on impact, and that's exactly what this gun that this character in the show's using. And so there's all these little tiny details, and I'm just like, this is like, like the Amazon's like, all right, we made the Rings of Power and people were like, it's not faithful enough, so let's dial the faithfulness to the IP up to 11 and then make the show. And that's what they did with this Fallout show. It's so faithful to the little bits and bobs of the world that you've played in 3, 4, even New Vegas, and then Fallout 76. Jeff came into a channel last night, our good friend Jeff, and he was telling, because he's finished the season, and he was telling me, he's like it all connects and it's all fantastic. And so he was like singing its praises as well. So
well, then it's good if the influencer
if influencer Jeff says so. I want to watch more. It's just I just haven't had time. It's very violent, and so I can't watch it when the kids are around.
The amount of like subtle, I guess it's to be expected, but
exactly.
It's to be expected, but at the same time, it kind of like, oh, wow, okay, that happened. It's one of those. There's everything is very, very well done. If you look at the credits, Todd Howard's definitely played a part. He's credited
an executive producer,
yeah, and you can kind of see that as far, they were like, okay, Todd, show us where this stuff needs to go, or how do we put this into, and he's like, oh, simple things. Like one of my favorite things is the Pip-Boy that she uses when she gets near the main character, Lucy. When she gets near stuff that's radioactive, you hear that.
Yep, the whole Geiger counter sound. Yeah,
and even if you're not, what that sound is indicating, even if you have no idea what a Pip-Boy is, or you have no idea what the Fallout franchise is, you understand, it's very well done to where it's not just out of the blue. It's just like, oh, that must be radioactive. Like it's got that sound. Raymond, I can't remember, but basically the guy that did Game of Thrones soundtrack musical score has done this as well. So and the music is great. It's spot on.
It's
there's
exactly
classics.
what you hear in Fallout 4 and Atom Bomb Baby, all the old 50s and 40s stuff.
But even besides the music that you would hear, his score is really, really good. And builds a lot of tension and lightheartedness when it needs to. It's really good. But can't sing enough praises about the show. It was on my to watch, but now it's definitely like I
need to.
I have to stop myself from watching multiple episodes, and by doing that, I've kind of fallen back into both. Destiny 2 has helped with that because I can't get home at night, play a little Destiny 2 and binge watch, 2 or 3 episodes of that. I just had to, been trying to do an episode a night.
How many episodes are there?
I want to say 8 or 9, I'm guessing.
Seems to be the new norm for like live action shows.
Yeah,
I mean, all the new
9.
Disney Star Wars shows are like 8 episodes. I think Kenobi was only 6. But like Rings of Power was what? I mean, Rings of Power might have been 12, which was a little more, but
I don't know. Maybe it's more than that, but they feel like about an hour and a half.
They're long. I mean, yeah, it's over an hour, which is great. So I know that Arcane, which is a nice segue into what we're going to talk about next, is 9 episodes, or season 1 was. And another segue, I didn't realize this, but Ella Purnell, who plays Lucy in Fallout, she's the voice of Jinx in Arcane.
Okay.
Which is mind-blowing, honestly. But she's and that was going to be my finishing thought on Fallout, is that
she's the thread.
Right. Like, I've loved the Fallout franchise for, over a decade at this point. I've loved the storytelling, the aesthetic, the look, everything about it. I've just loved. And when you take one of these IPs, especially Fallout being almost like just a violent comedy. Like, the games are so, like, you can't take them super serious. Like, the storylines aren't super serious. And when they try to be, sometimes it feels a little jarring. But they did such a good job with the casting of this and nailing that, like, dark comedy. Just like you said, okie dokie. Like that, like Lucy, you've got characters that are blowing other characters' brains out, other things, just cursing up a storm. And then Lucy, like, purposefully does not cuss. Her character just will not curse. Like, gosh darn that. Or, there's some,
she was raised in
what the fudge, I think I've heard.
Which, you get a little insight into the way this whole mindset for vaults and how maybe scientific and what an experiment a lot of these vaults actually were, because they're fed this picturesque Nebraska cornfield setting in the background, and they have particular set of ethics and rules that they've all been taught along the way, and this has gone into lineages now. It's been 200 plus years since the actual bomb decimated, and all these vault dwellers have been locked in for 200 and something years. So it's just generations of people that have gone through and
like a sterile environment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now they're out into, or she is out into the world, and it's pretty jarring for her. But she's catching up. Well, I'll just leave it at that. But it's
it's just, as a Fallout fan, you couldn't have asked for a better live action version of that IP. I think it's just there isn't. It's just
they've done an
you nailed it.
Job.
Yeah. So again, Ella Purnell, Lucy in Fallout, but Jinx in Arcane. Do you want to talk about the Arcane Season 2 trailer that we got within the past week or two or something? And that's slated again for the fall this year.
Yeah, the fall. So. Thank God, because summer is getting a little crowded. I've watched this once, and I've read stuff on it. From what I gathered, and from what the little bit of online research I did for people that have interviewed people from the studio that have developed this. They're saying that this season, the new season, season 2, is going to make a lot of people cry. Like there's going to be a lot of heartbreak and it's going to be good, I think.
Arcane season 1 was already phenomenal, and and that's coming from people like Shiloh and I both, who had no idea what the League of Legends universe Runeterra even was, other than knowing, I've seen Jinx before, like who hasn't? She's the manic pixie dream girl, psycho chick, from League of Legends. You've seen her. But I had no idea what the world was about, anything like that. And Arcane just made me fall in love with it. And so the fact that they're saying it's going to be even more of a roller coaster ride, that's something else.
Yeah.
That's going to be wild.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to this coming out. So I'll have to gear up my Netflix subscription for that. I have to have a little map or a little spreadsheet or something of when I need to subscribe to different platforms.
Right. Because subscribe this month to Netflix, this month to Paramount Plus.
If you're new to subscription economics, everyone, this is how you deal with it.
Yeah, if you're new to the world,
adult, you have to manage your subscriptions and keep up on them, or you'll just get you'll end up with $150 every month if you're not careful. So I probably have been there and done that. So I'm very, very, very selective of what I subscribe to and how much money I try to deal out to these sorts of things. But
oh boy,
I'm not against them. I'm not against them at all. I just this is how you work the system.
The new cable. So. Yeah. Okay, I think it's time for
Oh.
Every time.
Pick a card. Any card.
I'm leaving those voices over that little segment bumper because every single time I hit that, you say "ooh," like it just cracks me up. But yeah, so the deck of many things, Shiloh. What have we got today?
Right. Let me pull up the old spreadsheets.
Yeah, the old Google Doc with all the secrets on it.
Yep. Es muy necesito.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, I haven't updated some of these ones that have drawn already. So if we get one, I might just draw a new card.
That's fine.
That was my plan.
You are the
updating
master.
These lists, so
you are the master of the deck of many things, unlike its iteration in actual Forgotten Realms.
The deck of many things gets you. It's like Russia.
It's Soviet Russia.
All right.
Whatever. I can't do it. Can't do the accent.
So, what do we got here? Ooh, this one looks good.
The key. Fascinating.
Well, this is an interesting question. What would your dream house look like?
As the wife and I currently try to find a house.
Yeah, neither one of us have a house. I think you've been in the market. I have briefly been in the market.
The market's not great, so...
Yeah, the market is not great, and my life choices I don't know. I've kind of fallen out of like, well, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I need to focus on something else. So, I don't have 4 kids and a wife.
A million kids,
Yeah, to manage. So it's a lot easier for me to be like, I don't really necessarily need a house. It's just me. What is that going to do? I mean, I could maybe bring in a mangy mutt or something.
You could become John Wick, hopefully with far less
dog death
dying.
and guns. Yeah, probably.
And murder and just people trying to kill you. Just basically everything John Wick is minus all that plus the dog plus living alone in a nice house. That's, well, and again, until the movie, you know, and then his house goes bye-bye. But spoilers.
It explodes.
So dream house, Shiloh, when people ask me that question, which is not as uncommon as you'd think, I have this image that pops into my head from one of the many, I don't know if it was an HGTV show or if it was something I saw on YouTube, you know, like, because you'll see like these really nice houses tours on YouTube and stuff. But there's this image in my head of this living room, and in all of these mega nice houses there are 3 primary construction ingredients, materials, whatever, and that's always like metal, exposed metal, concrete, 4, exposed wood, and then glass, right? Like the nicer the house, the more just like pure of one of those 4 or multiple of those 4 materials seems to be used. Like you go watch these little shows and they're like, yeah, this is cedar hauled from upstate Idaho and brought down here, and you know, it's just the beams of the whole house, whatever. But in this image, this and as they're talking about this, they basically cut this giant glass window into the shape of this rocky, like, cliff side. It's not a cliff, but like, I don't know what else to call it. Just like this giant rock face. And they painstakingly cut the glass to fit that shape, slide it up there. So the living room is like this giant glass window that looks out into the forest. Of course, there's the metal exposed beams that are holding everything together. And then the wood accents. And then in their living room is just this giant, like, rock face. And so, and then of course you've got like couches and like, you know, nice lighting. So it's very modern. Some might even say it was probably like brutalist architecture. But I always see that and I'm like, that would be sick. I don't know, you know, just so my dream home would be those 4 materials in probably some modern style house. So. And maybe we did get this question before because I'm having deja vu.
I am too, all of a sudden. Should I redraw?
Yeah, why not? Double feature. Right. Double feature, baby.
Okay, just cash.
Oh. No, I'll run the whole thing again while you shuffle. Yeah.
Pick a card. Any card.
Shiloh's deck of many things. Remix.
I really did start to get deja vu.
Yeah, I didn't initially, but I was like, why does that question sound familiar? Why have I heard this answer before? Has he just...
At least I'm consistent, right? You know,
yeah, well, you just randomly pop up with questions so frequently in party chat or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so I was like, see, well, maybe we've already
I think we've done that card before.
Look, a Joker.
Eagle-eared, bat-eared listener. Bat's probably the appropriate animal for that. Some bat-eared listener is going to be like, yeah, you talked about it in this episode. That one.
Yeah, it was actually episode number 27. And
what if it was? It'd be great.
So we drew talons.
This one I don't think I've seen before, but we'll know when we get to the question, right? Yeah.
What is the best concert you've ever been to?
Okay, we have not had that one.
No.
I've been to not very many concerts, and I don't want to say that concerts are... Well, certainly concerts are not a dying thing because Taylor Swift made more money last year than many people. Yeah, probably. And most of that was her concerts. And there, how many tens of thousands of people outside of the stadium trying to listen in, whatever. But I have been to 3 notable ones that I'm going to have to narrow this down to. The first was with my dad, and it was a Jimi Hendrix experience. Which was a 2.5-3 hour long show with various musical artists from the singer of Living Colour to gosh, who did Cliffs of Dover? It's not Eric something. I don't know. Popular guitar player.
Eric Clapton?
No, not him.
No.
And I'm like, God,
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson, that's the one.
Really?
Steve Vai was there. There was, I want to say, I know that the drummer Jason Bonham was there.
Was a hologram of Jimmy there?
No.
Like a Tupac concert?
No. Now, I was young, and my whole draw was the fact that Steve Vai was going to be there because I was infatuated with Steve Vai's guitar playing. And this will lead into the next part of my answer in a bit. But it was a very fascinating experience because it was a ton of high-level musicians playing all sorts of Jimi Hendrix songs. And I wasn't even a huge fan of Jimi Hendrix. Had respect for the guy, obviously, as most guitar players do. But I wouldn't, I didn't know most of his songs. And it was a fun time. The other notable concert is a Steve Vai concert, but specifically his concert for his content. And he's a solo artist now, but he has a band that he'll tour with. And at that point, I was already a huge fan. This is a few years after the Jimi Hendrix concert. Well, the Jimi Hendrix experience, because I was not around for actual Jimi Hendrix. And it was great fun. He did something that I actually did once with my band, where he would pull people out of the audience and have them come up on the stage, and he'd say, "Okay, I want you to just, with your mouth or your hands, whatever, come up with a beat for our drummer." And so this random audience member would do that. And then the next person would be like, "Okay, you come up with like a bass line." And the person would make some guttural sounds and everyone would laugh, as she's trying to like hum or sing or something. But the bass player, I mean, these are all world-class musicians, right? The bass player just picks it up instantly by ear. And then, of course, goes down the line with each of the musicians, like the key, and then finally the last one. And Steve Vai, of course, being Steve Vai, was like, "All right, and you get the most important part, which is my part." And he's just being...
The rest of the band just throws their instruments down, walks away.
That's part of the act, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, they built a song based on what these random audience members, I'm assuming, I mean, I guess it could have been plants. And so anyway, that was something that I did in a show once with my band, because we were all, very good with learning and playing by ear. And our bass player had perfect pitch, so it was really easy. And once he learns his thing, the guitar player just follows, It's simple.
Yeah.
And so it was very fun, and that left a lasting impression. But then the last concert was, I saw Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, which was Slash's solo touring band, obviously post Guns N' Roses, before, which they're still together, but before Guns N' Roses finally... Axl Rose and Slash made up and got back together, the old band, as it were. But he did his Apocalyptic Love album. I think that was the tour that it was. And that was the first time, because of course, like Steve Vai's stuff is mostly instrumental. That was the first time that I knew the words to 90% of the songs that were being played at the concert, which was great for one reason, and that's because I really felt like, I was into it, but then bad because all of my videos of the concert had me singing horribly over whatever's happening on the stage. Uh-oh. So, but anyway, all three of those were fun. If I had to pick, I actually went to both. No, I didn't go to Steve Vai solo. I went with a buddy. But I did go to Slash by myself. I'd probably pick the Steve Vai one just because for so long I was a huge fan, and that was like a really special moment. But yeah, sorry, typical Coniff answer. Turn a simple question into a 12-page paper. So what about you? What's your favorite concert of all time?
That's tough. I've
You've been to many more than I have, significantly.
Probably hundreds of more. I've been to a lot of concerts. And most of these have been between the ages of 16, 17 to 40 something. Probably my early 40s. I haven't seen a whole lot since in the past 7 or 8 years. I've been to maybe 2.
Yeah.
So, and one of them was actually Taylor Swift. So, but I've been to so many bands, especially in my college years, before I went to culinary school, before I got married. Friends of mine, when I was actually in a band too, and we would go to Louisville to see a band. We would go to Cincinnati, where my buddy Andy was from. We would go see bands there. We would go to Columbus, Ohio to see bands. Like basically anything within a vicinity of Nashville or Southern Kentucky, we would go see. And liking a lot of indie music at the time, which I still do, but there were always bands, especially American bands touring all around. So I think honestly, the best show, like concert, I think I've ever seen, as far as a multiple artist bill, and it wasn't a Lollapalooza, because those are fun, but they're more events than actual concerts. But the best one that sticks out in my mind there were 3 bands, 2 of which I was a really big fan of, that actually got to see at the same time all perform in a smaller venue in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that was the opening band was actually my favorite at the time, which is a band called Curve from England. And then the Jesus and Mary Chain, which are originally from Scotland. And the last band I think on the list was Spiritualized, but it was kind of a shoegazer's dream at the time to see a lot of that kind of stuff all perform on one stage. But it was rocking, like it was just a lot of fun, and it was loud. Not the loudest concert I've ever seen. I think that definitely goes to probably the second or maybe the first. I don't know, but I saw one of my favorite bands of all time, Dinosaur Jr., play with My Bloody Valentine, which is another shoegazer
I've heard
band.
of that one.
Dinosaur Jr. Dinosaur Jr. not so much, but My Bloody Valentine. But they're both very, very loud. But My Bloody Valentine is loud in a shoegazing white noise in your face. Live they were, and still, if you listen to their album on full volume, your ears might pierce out a little bit. But Dinosaur Jr. has always been very, very loud, and I think Jay Mascis is probably one of the most unsung guitar heroes of the indie scene, because he basically brought kind of classic guitar solos and stuff to independent music. Yeah. And that was never really done a whole lot in the past. So he's a big fan of like Neil Young and that sort of stuff. So it was just really, really good. But I've seen so many concerts that it's really hard to choose. But I guess those would be my choices.
You mentioned
the Sigaros concert that I saw. That was amazing. That was at the Ryman Auditorium. And even the most recent concert I think I've been to with the Taylor Swift concert, but that was definitely more of a event than an actual what I would consider a concert. So
and it has to be for that many people and all that.
Yeah. I mean, she just filled out where the Tennessee Titans played, which is not the biggest stadium, but it's still 65,000 people. It's not this, 1,000 under, concert, what I would consider a concert.
Yeah. I was going to say, you mentioned the loudness, and while, rock, just typical like rock and roll, like what Slash would play is maybe not the same. One thing that I noticed from that concert was there were two opening acts, and then Slash came out. The first one was like, I don't even remember. Not important. But but they were at like this normal volume, and then the next band came out, and they were the ones that were actually kind of halfway touring with Slash around this region, and the volume was like loud, and I was like, okay, so they're just kicking it up. And then when that band finished and they started the actual like Slash opener, I was like, I did not expect this to be this loud, because it just like, it was like, all right, this band's down here, this band's right here, Slash is up here, like just the intensity and the loudness of like the mix in the entire, it was like a basketball stadium. So that was fascinating, just how different, Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of fascinating when you have, I know I've talked about this at length with my good friend Ashley. She and I have been to multiple concerts together, and actually a couple in the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, which is what used to be the Grand Ole Opry.
Okay.
And they've since moved the Opry to, I don't know, somewhere north of Nashville. But this is in the middle of downtown. It's kind of hard to get to now with Nashville growing and everything. But it's an older building, but it's notorious for that, and it has a lot of really good concerts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they still have like oh crap, I can't even think of their name, but monitors, people dressed in suits that will seat you,
ushers
you'll have
and stuff.
So ushers, you have assigned seating, so it's kind of nice. But they also have full bars and all that kind of stuff, if that's what you're into. But this is where I saw Sigaros, but I've also seen other bands there, and it's just fascinating because Sigaros was perfect there.
Yeah.
But I've seen other bands there where it's just been like, oh, this is really lacking. And it's all our assessment was that it just boils down to the sound people, like whether or not this band has their own sound people that they've paid money to basically go on tour with them, or they entrust their sound to the house guys. Yeah. And it's just kind of funny how that all works out. But I think that's what it boils down to from our experiences. That's what it is. It's like, well, do you have the sound guys that are just perfect and spot on and can get the sound cranked up, and it's not, because I've been there and it's been like, well, either the vocals are lacking, it's not enough vocals, or it's just all over the map. So I think that's what we've decided, is that, well, it's all sound people, how important they are. So
yeah, it's true.
Yep.
All right, last topic of the day. So from concerts to Eorzea, nothing could be a more jarring change, I guess. I wanted to talk, because I don't think we mentioned it, but I wanted to, in one of the last episodes, I want to talk about Hildebrand questline, Shiloh. Mm-hmm. So I need to ask you first. And all of our Final Fantasy XIV veterans are like, oh boy. But I want to ask you, before I really explain it, did you do all of his quests up until Heavensward, or even past that, perhaps?
I think past that.
Okay.
I think, I don't know, I stopped around, I think my last one, the most current one I have is like level 55 or something around there.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not sure exactly where that falls into.
Yeah, all of his quests for me so far still say level 50. But
okay,
I've been
maybe
through,
that's what
like,
it is.
I've been through like multiple story arcs, like the intro. Then there's the one where you like something with a sword, and then Greg. which is the dude in red. Okay, so we've done the same thing. So listener, if you are unaware of who Hildebrand is, so Final Fantasy XIV does a lot of things well. And coming from Shiloh and I are we're basically veterans of MMOs. I would say at this point, we've been playing them for 20 years, all different types, all the greats, some of the lesser known ones too, trying them out, whatever. And Final Fantasy XIV it's no surprise, but it is effectively the second most popular MMO that exists. Obviously, WoW is first. And there was a moment in 2021, whenever that was, when Final Fantasy XIV, maybe it's 2022, I don't know, but Final Fantasy XIV overtook WoW for a little bit because Blizzard was going through some inner turmoil. Somehow we'll word that. And Final Fantasy XIV, though, is a great game to play solo. And we were talking about this the other night because and this is the first part of this conversation, then we'll get back to Hildebrand. But the first part is that's one person. Myself, Shiloh, our friend Reaper, and our friend Tempest.
It depends on who you ask.
Yeah. No, shut up, Connor.
Oh, boy.
We were going through all of the extreme versions of the primal fights or the trials, but I think just the primals, right? Because you can get a drop from doing them on extreme that is a whistle that summons a horse, and you get 4 of the horses, and then you can summon the nightmare. I don't know. Anyway, you combine them, and then you get this fancier horse. But anyway, it's mounts, right? You can earn mounts in the game. What a novel idea. Yeah, so... and so we were talking about how this game is great solo because of this LFG. Now, we had 4 people, and we were doing things unsynced, which I don't fully understand because I didn't even know it was a possibility. But if you just hop into the game and you go into this LFG, and you're playing solo, let's say, you go through the entire game, you go through MSQ, which is main story quest or main scenario quest. You're playing this, and eventually you're going to get a quest that's part of the main story that requires you to go into a dungeon. Now, many people would have a mini panic attack about that because that would, if they're not dungeon people, they're just here for the story. That means they have to group up with people and, oh, great, go do this group content. Well, the LFG and Final Fantasy XIV in general offers 2 options. You can either, through this LFG, use just queue and get random people to help you. And every single time that that's happened has been an exceptional experience. Everyone is very friendly, encouraging, whatever. But they also offer the ability for you to get... computer AI controlled people in your dungeon instead, so you don't have to play with anybody. And so it's just a very smart system, right? Now, the unsynced version in this case that we were doing was to allow our friend Tempest, who's level 90, just pub stomp all of the primals while we did very little damage or anything, so we could basically just farm these guys for these mount drops. Very fun, right? And all of this is offered, to you in a very easy to understand duty finder that you can just, open and say, okay, I want to do this. And they have the explanations like this is a raid for 2 tanks, 2 healers, 4 DPS. They talk about all the details. It's just very comprehensive and smart. And I love it. And so it's unlike any other MMO because all the other MMOs, they're designed for you to play with other people. That's kind of the point. But this LFG exists and it makes things very easy for solo players. So then let's move back to Hildebrand. This, as I mentioned, Final Fantasy XIV is very solo friendly. And part of that, I would say, is the LFG, but the other part is just how much cutscenes and story quests and all of this stuff that there is. And the Hildebrand quests are very special in this regard, because it's as if they took their game and they're like, how could we, using the character models, the internal camera, the cutscenes, how could we effectively create a player guided anime into this game? And they did so with Hildebrand. The cutscenes are hilarious. They're very different from the base game cutscenes, because they're purposefully like they'll use the character models and then like make the face change, to fit like, huh? Like just silly stuff. And so a lot of this game playing that I've been doing in Final Fantasy XIV lately, it's like, the group stuff is fine, and it's great that I can do that effectively solo. But man, like, I don't even want to hop into a voice chat or anything, because I want to do these quests and pay attention to Hildebrand's character quest line. And my final bit before I turn it to you again is that Hildebrand is specifically this inspector character. That's what he's called. He's solves mysteries, solves problems. And again, it is written in a very like anime, just anime comedy sort of way. Like Hildebrand has this assistant that is an attractive cat girl, classic, right? And then he is like your bumbling, I don't even know how you describe him, but like clumsy inspector sort of situation. It is the most bizarre and yet at the same time interesting part of Final Fantasy XIV. And it's something, like I said, it's, this massive multiplayer game. It is this thing that is designed for you to just go through by yourself without any other people. And it's, I don't know. What are your thoughts on any of that too? Like just the solo ability of the game, but also just the fact that like it goes so deep that there's like these extensive quest lines that are there for you to just play by yourself and experience. Yeah,
have fun and just engross yourself with. The Hildebrand quest line in particular is pretty amazing. It was unexpected. I knew going in that it was going to be interesting. I just didn't know how interesting it was going to be. But it's definitely a classic. You have to do that quest line.
Yes.
In Final Fantasy XIV, if you want the full Final Fantasy XIV experience, because it's Absolutely. Nothing like anything else in the game. It's just,
or any MMO, really,
goofy and funny and bizarre, but offers a little bit of insight into parts of the game that you may not have really understood. It's a classic. It really is. Plus you get a funny dance, and
apparently they're for relic weapons later on. Like you have to go through all of it to get the Manderville relic weapons or something. It was something I read today on online. But
why to do that quest line?
Because you don't get a lot of XP for doing them. It's like a few, like 900. Where you need like 400,000 to get a level. Obviously that does nothing. Doesn't move that bar along very much. But it certainly moves that bar in my heart along, because it is very enjoyable and just fascinating. And there's a particular moment, there's a character, at least in the quest, because like I said, I don't know how it's broken up, but there's like these episodic sections to it. And the one I just finished was, we were looking for this duelist that was stealing people's weapons. And there's this character who, and I won't spoil it, but the character that's important to that that Hildebrand, his name is Gilgamesh. That's the character's name. But Hildebrand just calls him Greg. It's so stupid. And it reminds me of everyone getting Gary or Jerry or whatever his real name wrong in Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
But it's just every time Gilgamesh and Hildebrand would interact, he'd just be like, all right, Greg, great work. It's like, and you know, what's very fascinating to me is like, this game would have been written in Japanese, right? So like, how did they do such a good job bringing that humor across to the English audience? And they must just have had some great localization experts, but it's just because it's so good. It's so funny and dumb, and it's just like, candy in the midst of your serious need to defeat primals and whatever else, because the world's ending and the Asians are being asses again. So it's just
part of their name. But the solo play of that game is really good, and it lends it to where I don't necessarily feel like I'm needed to come in to be a part of all the time. Like, oh wait, we gotta wait for Shiloh to go do this.
Yes.
Like, there's not any need for. It's not like the end game of ESO, or especially end game of WoW, or even Destiny 2 for the most recent examples of what we've been playing. Where Destiny 2 has they all have looking for group finders and stuff where you can do that stuff. But if you're just looking for, a lot of times in those games, if no one's on, I'll pick single player stuff to do. I will flush out characters, or I'll do storylines, and wait for the moments where if I think someone's going to be on, then that's when we'll do group content. But there's so much to do in Final Fantasy that is soloable, and or you can, like you mentioned, with the NPCs that you can bring into and do dungeons with. I haven't done a whole lot of that, but the few that I've done has been really, really neat to do it that way. It's not necessarily the best way, the most efficient way to do dungeons, but it is a very, very good tool that you can use to learn mechanics of certain dungeons. And in Final Fantasy 14, like most of these MMOs, you'll have mechanics. And that's where things can be daunting looking for a group, is if you don't know the mechanics, especially if you're a tank or even a healer, or, maybe a particular type of DPS, say, quote unquote, a black mage. Where you don't have a lot of movement, and or you need to know the mechanics pretty straight ahead. This is a good tool for you to do that and not necessarily feel like you're shamed or you die a lot, or things like that. It doesn't matter because you're playing with AI. Like, it doesn't.
Yes.
Who cares? So,
but even if you don't, like, the people are so friendly that, like, if you are a tank and you have the sprout symbol next to your name, which indicates that you are a new player with under so many 100 hours of gameplay, or something else. There's like some criteria for that. And you load into an LFG dungeon with 3 other random people, and you simply put in chat, hey, I've never done this before. I'm the tank. I don't know the path. Everyone that I've ever encountered will, if there's like someone who's done it before, will be like, okay, I'll lead on and you just tank this stuff. Like, or just like, oh, no worries. Many people will be like, yep, my first time too. Nobody has any expectations that you need to be a god tier tank in order to get through things. I cannot say the same for World of Warcraft. I think I might be able to say the same thing for ESO, only because people don't typically, I guess say typically, because people do queue as tank in veteran dungeons and then get something like March of Sacrifices and expect it to be an easy time, and it's not. But like, if you're just doing what the equivalent of what we're talking about in Final Fantasy 14 and ESO is, which is normal dungeons, and you're a tank and you just type in chat, hey, I'm new, don't know. Like, people aren't going to just rake you over the coals. But World of Warcraft, I have seen where people are very impatient. They, they've done it a million times since 2004. So it makes sense. But yeah, in Final Fantasy 14, it's just everybody is just very friendly. And if you are still, hesitant, like you said, there's those the bots that can go with you. So.
Yeah, and you can also do it in the original version of this was, because this is a fairly new system I think they implemented for Endwalker, but they actually had, you can do it with your grand company. You eventually get your own little apartment room in your grand company area, and you get recruits that come to you, and you can you either hire or fire. It's funny. You have a little interview process for these, people that you get resumes for. Yeah. Huh. And you can either, for like, I'm a Thermitage, or, I'm a summoner, or I'm a white mage, or, you like, all right, come on, we need a healer. And you can have a certain number of people in this little grand company party, and they level up, and you can go do dungeons with them, and it's a whole thing.
That's fascinating. I didn't even know that. So
yeah.
Well, it is the most soloable MMO that I've ever played, and it's just, like I said, it's baked into that. Like World of Warcraft, what I would argue is its strength, which is leveling, especially going to like old zones, old expansions, and just experiencing the story and leveling. Like, that's a really fun time. There's a problem where you get to 60 far before you finish that expansion. But the experience, like I just did a monk all through Mists of Pandaria. Again, not all the way through, because I got to 60 before I really explored half the continent. But just what I did do was a ton of fun, very fun. And that's its strength, I think, is leveling and experiencing zones and doing the quests and stuff. But Final Fantasy 14 it's just every step of the way so far, from the beginning to the end, is just, you can play this completely solo, or you can play it with other people in a very stress-free way. And then there's the Hildebrand quests to look forward to each time, except for Shadowbringers. Apparently they didn't do one for Shadowbringers, but they brought them back for Endwalker. So, well, Shiloh, do you have any other little short Final Fantasy 14 segment today? I'm still exploring. I'm still going through the quests. I don't think I'll play another MMO until the fall, just because there's so many, unless you count Destiny 2, and I happen to get back into that. Destiny 2 doesn't count in my opinion, but the Bungie developers would say otherwise. But Final Fantasy 14 feels like the place that I kind of just want to stay until The War Within comes out. Certainly through Dawn Trail, which I'm guessing you can't go to Dawn Trail until you've done everything else, but maybe not. Maybe that's not how those work. Yeah, there's no way I'm getting there by the time it comes out.
No, and I haven't pre-ordered it because of that, but at the same time, I'm like, well, at the very least, and I'm pretty sure I can get a character to 80 or 90 before that releases, and then you could probably unlock one of the Pictomancer or the Viper.
Yes.
So even if story-wise I'm not there, I could probably at least experience part of the game by unlocking one of those new jobs. But well, I'm still waiting to see. So and that earring is nice because it will. The earring, Menphilia's earring from Endwalker only goes up to level 80.
Yeah,
I think
this one goes to 90.
This one goes to 90. So if I were to try to get to that, basically, I'm thinking once I get a class to 80, which my Reaper is technically almost there at 78, but once I do that, then once I get a job to 80, then maybe that's when I pre-order, because that I'm sure that level grind from 80 to 90 is not any easier from 50 to 60, and sometimes
50 to 60
60 to
takes
70.
a bit. Yeah.
And my astrologian is now 60, so since she's got her all fancy Heavensward Welkin astro armor.
Yeah. She does look great.
Picture, yeah.
I'm like very close to level 56. Of course, I keep getting distracted by Hildebrand and company, but I'm just plugging right along, just exploring it at a more casual pace because, in my opinion, this is the best part of an MMO where you know enough to do things, but you like there's still that sense of wonder because you don't know so much. To me, that part of Guild Wars 2 was maybe like right when we were doing Heart of Thorns or the beginning of Path of Fire.
Path of Fire, yeah.
Yeah, which Path of Fire maybe not so much because we had already unlocked most of the mounts and the ones that didn't require certain story completions. But certainly like Heart of Thorns, where I was like, I know I'm like CP 150. I've definitely got some time under my belt, but there's so much I've yet to explore with this game. And that's where I feel like I'm at with Final Fantasy 14. And the irony is I have not even touched an expansion, so I'm probably even further behind in content-wise, but yeah, this is the best part, the best period of an MMO playing. Like the beginning's daunting, and then it's just kind of like this bell curve. Like, okay, yes, this is the peak, and then the more you play, it tapers off because you've seen everything, you've done it all.
Yeah, I would definitely for Final Fantasy. It goes that bell curve kind of is very, very. Like this, you can't really see my hand, all right?
Oh yeah.
So it just flat lines throughout the Realm Reborn, and it picks up a little bit near the end, and then by Heavensward it gets really, really high, and then that's kind of
where it stays.
And then it goes down a little bit for Stormblood, but not much. I'm still a fan of that, especially if you're going to go on a more Eastern-based job like a samurai or
which I'm doing now,
or a monk or something where you kind of feel like, oh, this is my homeland, Kugane.
Kugane,
yeah, Kugane. But yeah, it's I still enjoy that expansion, and I think I don't really know, but from what I've experienced in Shadowbringers, which I'm still trying to bite and claw my way back into that expansion with a different job, but once I get there, it's that expansion looks very, very promising, and I know it's probably hailed as one of the best. So so we're definitely in that peak area.
Yeah.
So I would
the
try
beginning of the foothills of the mountain, if you will, probably.
Yeah, I'd say you're at the beginning of the foothills. So I would make a push to try to get our buddy Reaper is trying to push, and he's already been through Heavensward, but try to push to get through. And I know it's a push, like it's a slog. It still is the slog, but once you get into it, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so far
story-wise,
post 50 is far more enjoyable than 1 to 50 was. Yeah. But again, it's still like a whole thing.
Yeah, I would make a definite push to get into Heavensward, and then
what is today? April 12th, 14th?
14th.
By the end of this month, I'm going to try to get to Heavensward. At least.
That's good.
I feel like that's doable. Mm-hmm. The rate I play games and all the different games I play, I don't know, but some people might be like, "Get 16 days? You can do it." So, well, excuse me. Goodness. Bunch of amateurs, and by that I mean me. I don't know what we'll do for the next episode. Maybe we'll still be talking Final Fantasy 14. A week. I might have a book report that is not a video game based book, but it is a book I'm currently reading. No, it's not the House of Leaves one that I was just showing you before we started the episode. It's a book called Bear Town. And so far, it feels like Life is Strange but in like an actual like acclaimed novel format. It has nothing to do with Life is Strange, but the way the characters are being developed and everything. So I may end up, if I finish it in a week, which I feel like would be kind of surprising for me, but maybe not. I might do a book report on that. And then we still need to bring back Video Game Face-Off, Shiloh. We need to finish that bracket. So maybe that'll happen next episode. But in a few weeks, we'll have another board game episode and then just chatting about all the games that we're playing.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Summer looks to be busy. I know we were talking about, for me anyway, Destiny 2 and Dawn Trail. I completely forgot that I pre-ordered the Elden Ring DLC. So I've got to... Elden Ring. And I made a new character for that, and I gotta go back and finish that. So, and I gotta get that character up to where I was in the old story. So I'm like, because I purchased it on PC, and our old playthrough was on Xbox. So now I've got more to do, but that character's fairly OP right now. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, like that video said, you can't play everything.
Can't play everything,
but we're sure as hell gonna try.
I can't even play everything that I want to play, so I don't. That's a good. That's a good probably problem. Should have been an initial point. Was I can't even play the stuff that I really want to play, so why would I play anything else?
Yeah,
it doesn't really make any sense.
Like if you're just immediately lukewarm on something, it's like
I'm sorry, you're out of the question because I've got this other thing and this other thing and this thing over here that I have yet to even much.
Yeah, I know. For me, like I'm looking at it like, okay, I need to play. I want to play Alan Wake 2 because it was the closest thing to Baldur's Gate 3 at the Game Awards, but that's on an epic embargo until sometime, and then it'll come out on Steam. But then to play that, I need to play Alan Wake 1, and then okay, that's just one thing. But then I've got all these Steam games that I want to play, like Dave the Diver again, or some of these other indie games that I know would probably only take a week, but then that's still a week I have to dedicate to that. But meanwhile, other things are happening, and I'm just, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, though, I think.
Yeah.
Gaming has never been better than it is currently, especially with how easy it is to play a lot of the old games, I would say, that you may have missed. So,
yeah.
All right. Thank you, listener, for another... this is an hour and 40 some odd minutes that you have sat and listened to this episode.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
As they say in the South, bless your heart.
Which is not a compliment.
That's not a compliment, but thank you.
Yeah, we're thankful that you're here, and continue to listen and enjoy just us chatting about our love of this hobby. Do we have a sign off yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Malone.
Peace. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
Questing the Multiverse is brought to you in part by Coniff Productions, House Wood Designs, and Joel Crawford. To follow along with our adventures, please follow us on Twitter at QtM Podcast and consider joining our Discord, a link of which can be found in the show notes or in our Twitter bio. Want your questions or comments read on the show? Email us at questingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review or a follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.